stars stole the night away. Hey, hey, hi. Say, do you remember how dancing in September? How never was a cloudy day. My thoughts are with you, holding hands with your heart to see you. Only blue talking love. Remember how we knew love was here to stay. Now December found the love that we shared in September. Only blue talking love. Remember true love we shared today. Hey, 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 I say, do you remember I dancing in September? I never was a cloudy day. Oh, I say, do you remember I dancing in September? Golden dreams were shiny days. The bell was ringing, our souls were singing. Do you remember? Never a cloudy day. Hey, 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 I say, do you remember dancing in September? Never was a cloudy day. Oh, I say, do you remember dancing in September? Never was a cloudy Do you remember the 21st night of September? I know your eyes in the morning sun. I feel you touch me in the pouring rain. And the moment that you wander far from me, I wanna feel you in my arms again. When you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down, and they all should let us be. And we belong to you and me. I believe in you. You know the door to my very soul. You're the light in my deepest, darkest hour. No, no, you're my savior when I fall. And you may not think that I care for you. Well, you know, deep down inside, I really do. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down, and they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. La da 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 da, la da 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 dee da ba da 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 da, ba 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 da 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 ya, ba da 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 da. When you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave, and it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down, and they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. Oh, how deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down, and they all should let us be. We belong to you and me.
Good morning, Sven.
Good morning, Mr. HBO.
How the heck are you?
It's just another day, one day at a time. But otherwise, I'm here.
Lawrence, there is the link to Stacy's singing prowess. Let me adjust things here. Her name is Stacy Ryan, and that's also, it's got an E in it. I forgot. Stacy with an E in it. Stacey Ryan. All right. Welcome, Mac the Human, P-Town, Lawrence, Sven, and Halsey, and Brother Bet, and Cade. And I'm scrolling backwards to see if I've missed anybody. I think I got everyone for now. Feel free to hit the StreamYard link and come in. The big project for this morning is to listen to an interview with Joel Salatin on why small farmers are disappearing. So I think we can have fun with this effort. Joel is being interviewed by an outfit called EPOCH Times. I guess that's a newspaper. Anyway, let me bring it up and we'll get started. Spin, are you aware how important farming is? You like you
Not
like to eat.
necessarily,
You like to
but
eat,
you
right?
know, I'm sorry.
You like to eat, right?
Yes, I don't eat
Oh,
a lot, but I do like to eat. Yes.
well, that's what we're talking about, baby.
Okay. And I have heard you on your older shows about the caveman diet and the GAPS diet and all that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, so I mean, if you were to take a good look at me now, I'm as skinny as a twig. Um,
Yeah.
I'm about what between 120, 130, but I mean, otherwise, I feel healthy. I mean, like, is there a way where I could, just improve the diet a bit?
You want to improve your diet?
Yes.
What's wrong with your diet? What are you eating that you think is a problem?
Well, I am eating a lot of wheat. For example, like hamburger buns and cereal and a lot of
Uh,
fast food.
how old are you?
Uh, I'm 27,
Okay, that explains a lot. Go ahead.
and yeah, that's basically all I eat. I mean, like here and there, I'll eat, eggs and bacon and a medium rare steak, but there's the white toast too. And I've heard
Mhm.
you, say that wheat isn't a good thing, so I guess I could cut back on the grains and all that. But
Uh-huh.
when it comes to other foods, it's as if I'm only, I'm tunneling vision on certain foods and not other
Mhm.
foods. So I mean, like there is something in me that I do want to try this and just see what happens.
Mhm.
I mean, like health wise, I'm good. I mean, no eggs or joint eggs or not any of that, but just wanted to see if you had any tips or thoughts.
Sure. Go on YouTube and do a search for the Whole 30 diet.
Hmm.
The Whole 30 diet, and you'll find a lot of people have tried out the Whole 30 diet, and they swear by it. They love it. They stuck with it. And so the Whole 30 diet is you for the next 30 days you don't eat anything that's been processed. Right? You just eat
Hmm.
natural foods that don't come through a factory and in a processed way. So you just eat whole foods. That would be whole uh, fruits and vegetables and meat and whatever, right? So look at all the testimonies. And for 30 days, you do not weigh yourself. You don't get on a scale because the point of the Whole 30 diet is to clear your palate so that you know for certain on day 31, 32, 33, so that you know for certain what foods are screwing you up. So let's say you go for 30 days and you're eating, whole foods like bacon and steak and, salad and corn on the cob, whatever you consider that. But there's nothing processed, no sugars, no honeys. Uh, anyway, so you go for 30 days. And then on day 31, that's when you are allowed to eat Doritos corn chips so that you have a clear palate and then you will check it out. You will say, "Oh my God, these Doritos corn chips feel like poison, feel like lead in my stomach. What the hell?" But you wouldn't have known that a month earlier because you're eating anything and everything whenever you see it. So you don't know what's really messing with you. But on day 31, you eat Doritos corn chips, and you go, crap, this is bad. And then on day 32, you eat a big stack of pancakes covered in butter and maple syrup. See how that makes you feel. And if it makes you feel good, fine, you're good. If it makes you feel like crap, oh man, see, now you can tell. The Whole30 diet is a way to test foods to see what's bugging you and what's clear. And a lot of people who do the Whole30 diet, they stick with it. They say, screw this, I'm not going to go back to Doritos corn chips ever again, or whatever was bugging them before. But you don't know what's bugging you as long as you're eating anything in sight.
Mm-hmm.
So start with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. I mean, like, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I really can't tell the difference between, eating greens and not. Like, I mean, really haven't
Well,
had any
yeah,
problems
when
or
you're 27, when you're
concerns.
27, you reported that you're kind of skinny. That makes sense because when you're 27, your metabolism is cranked up. But when you turn
Yeah.
45, eating the cereals and the grains and the hamburger buns, they're going to put on a bunch of weight, and you just might sneak up to 200 pounds or so, and you go, "Whoa, what happened?"
That'll be
Because I
annoying.
haven't changed my diet, but it's your metabolism that changes over the years.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That might be why I can't gain any weight. It's my metabolism is too damn high.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, like, I wouldn't even know, like, if drinking protein shakes or going to the gym and doing some curls, or I don't know, cycling, something that, so I can, not be a skinny twig. But I,
Well,
I mean, but
it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything bad if you're skinny, because it
sure.
turns out that the skinny rats live longer than fat rats. See? And also, you can prove it to yourself. Just go over, no matter what town you live in, go to any old folks' home, and there's a bunch of
Sure.
skinny old folks there, but there's no fat old folks in old folks' home, because the old folks who are fat, they die off before they can ever get to an old folks' home.
Hmm.
Anyway, so that's your project for the next month or two. Do the Whole30 diet, and then go on the YouTube and look it up. There's a lot of people did it, and they'll tell you the specifics of it. And then on day 31, you can start experimenting with foods that might be bugging you. So it's a pretty good way to understand food and its effect on your own body. Hello, Justin.
And then with today's topic, now you say farming, so we're not talking, like just growing plants out of the ground. It might be, I don't know, sheep farming, pig farming, cattle farming, log farming.
Yeah,
You know,
farming can cover a big topic. Flowers, sheep, as you said, chickens, wheat, tobacco. We might be covering a big topic. Are
so,
you are
uh,
you
so
interested in farming?
I wish I was, but I don't know anything about it. But here I am, so
Here you are.
I'm about to find out.
All right, let's hit play and see what we got.
No flies, there's no smell. These are unvaccinated, unmedicated, no pharmaceuticals, none of that.
In this episode, I sit down with farmer Joel Salatin. He and his family own Polyface Farms, and he's the author of 17 books, including Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, War Stories from the Local Food Front.
You can't have a porta potty, so now you're at $50,000 to put in a certified septic system in order to have a kitchen that passes compliance.
Salatin believes that what America desperately needs is a food emancipation proclamation.
Which basically says you and I can engage in a food transaction without the government's permission. In my lifetime, I have watched this erosion of farmer access to retail dollars. Meanwhile, we're seeing farmers go out of business hand over fist. The average farmer is now 60 years old. So in the next 15 years, half of all America's agriculture equity is going to change hands. The question is it all going to go to Vanguard, BlackRock, Bill Gates, the Chinese?
This is American Thought Leaders, and I'm Yanya Kellick. Joel Salatin, it's so good to have you on American Thought Leaders.
It's a privilege and an honor to be with you, Jan.
We're here in your milieu. We're here at Polyface Farm. So let's see some of the really interesting things you've managed to do here on the farm.
Sure. Let's take a little tour. Isn't this a wonderful venue?
Oh, incredible. But yeah, look at these guys. They're pretty beautiful animals. I mean,
Oh yeah. Well, they are.
They're really in good shape. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
It's very
Oh, yeah.
somehow it's very clear.
No grain whatsoever.
This grass is all they need.
Yeah.
So this is like the ultimate grass fed, basically.
Uh-huh.
All right. Can you see how shiny their coats are?
Very shiny.
And these are grass-fed cows, and so it makes for a healthier cow. If you go to a video that has factory-style farming, where they jam all the cows up into one tight area, and they're standing in their own poop, and they feed them with oatmeal, and you see those cows, their skin does not look shiny like this, and there's snot coming out of their nose, and they don't look healthy at all compared to these cows. And also you'll hear Joel Salatin say these cows don't have flies. Flies don't hang around them like they do on the commercial factory farms.
This grass is all they need.
Yeah.
So this is like the ultimate grass fed, basically.
Uh-huh. It's the ultimate grass fed. That's exactly right. Yeah. That's what you call happy turkeys right there. Turkeys actually eat about 3 times as much grass as a chicken. And because of that, they need way more grit. So this group of turkeys is eating 50 pounds of rocks a day for their gizzard.
Of rocks?
Of rocks,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So we have pans of rocks in there. It's called grit.
Right.
But it's big. It's the size of a marble. They're big pieces of rocks. And then they're incredibly intelligent. And they're very personable. They're very people oriented, as opposed to chickens, which aren't nearly as.
For example, this
Yeah,
fella.
yeah. They almost look prehistoric, don't they?
They do a little bit,
I
yeah.
call them pterodactyls.
Yeah.
You know, they're like the
Yeah,
prehistoric
yeah.
pterodactyl bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll clean every piece of green vegetation here that there is.
And this is kind of
This is where they've just been.
Once they
yeah,
just,
yeah. Once they're gone.
I mean, it really looks.
Yeah,
it
but-
really does look like it's been mowed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, look at this.
Yeah, it's been
And
mowed.
this is done. None of this was done. Like, literally looks like someone came in and chopped it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. These are unvaccinated, unmedicated, no pharmaceuticals, no wormers, grubicides, no ractopamine, none of that. Do you notice there's no flies, there's no smell?
It's actually, I would say it's a pleasant smell. It's a whole different pig world.
Everything's eating and being eaten. I mean, a compost pile is all about life, death, decomposition, regeneration. And, everything's being consumed by something else and then essentially regenerating in some other form.
Right.
Okay? What makes the sacrifice of the pig sacred is the respect and honor bestowed during life.
Right.
That framework, that ethical moral framework, hangs on starting to honor the least of these, the animals, the plants, and honoring them to create a moral, ethical
It's our
framework.
relationship with the natural world.
That's right. That's right.
That will translate into our relationship with each other.
Exactly. And so is it any wonder that a society that now factory farms,
Or basically
their animals,
commodifies
yes,
life,
commodifies and disrespects life in a factory farm, will also disrespect the individual desires of a person. And so yeah, it's very, very similar. Yeah.
And this, and just, watching what happened over the last, this is watching over however many years, you kind of getting a feeling that we kind of go wrong.
Right.
And unless we start correcting that, we're going to have a lot of problems.
That's right. Okay. All right, pigs.
All right.
These are big acorns, aren't they? All right. Carry on, pigs. So these guys get moved every 4 days. We call this the Millennium Feathernet. The house gets moved every 2 days, within the oval, and then the whole circle gets moved every 4 days. We can go in. So just step high. There you go, and you can go in and just see how pretty the birds are. Hi, ladies. We have been hatching our own layers now for about 12 years.
Okay.
So these are our
They're
own.
also beautiful animals. I mean, wow, right?
These are our own genetics. We call it functional genetics. We don't care how big you are, what color you are, anything. All we care is, are you old? Are you healthy? Are you productive? If you are, we want your genetics. So we've been selecting those now for about 12 years, and these are the offspring of that selection process.
Right. And they're pretty good looking animals.
Oh yeah. So this is early in the morning, so they're just beginning to lay. There is zero smell, no flies. This is the official way to hold a chicken, is you put your middle finger between their legs.
That's right. I've seen it. I haven't done it.
And you hold them like this. That way, if they want to scratch, they're just out in the air, People, they hold them up here like this, well, then they can scratch, all this. But you hold them like this and just let their breasts sit in your hand, and they get real content, don't you? There you go. So these are roosts. Daniel came up with this. When we started with this, we had a hoop house.
Okay.
But the problem with the hoop house is it doesn't have any structural integrity up high, so you have to put all the bracing down to the ground. Well, then that becomes something that can catch a chicken, you can trip over, that sort of thing. So Daniel came up with this design that puts all the structural integrity up high, so you never run over a chicken and you don't have anything to trip on, because
and then you're pulling this into the new area.
Yeah. So it's on skids, pipe skids.
Yeah.
And it just moves. Yeah. So you hook up here with a tractor to the feed buggy. This is all hooked together,
and
it just trains in. So this is 1,000 layers. Yeah. And you can't use 2 geese.
Yeah.
Or they form a clan.
All right.
So it's only 1 goose. And that way the goose knows my only friends are these chickens. But the goose is the ultimate security agent. The goose hates everybody, hates me, hates you, hates the world. Totally non-discriminatory, he hates everything.
And apparently everything you want to be doing here is illegal.
Well, yeah, just about. and it's not just food regulations. It's other things. I mean, for example, we have a sawmill. We have 700 acres of Appalachian hardwood forest. This is the belly of oak and black walnut. We can legally cut a tree and mill it into boards, but we can't legally make it into a chair and sell it because that's manufacturing. And we're an agriculture zone. Agriculture zone, this prohibits manufacturing. So, there's everything from food safety to, we'd love to make chicken pot pies for our customers. You can't do that without an inspected kitchen. Well, what do you have to do to get an inspected kitchen? You have to have an approved septic field. You can't have a composting toilet. You can't have a porta potty. So now you're at $50,000 to put in a certified, septic system in order to have a kitchen that passes compliance so that you can make a chicken pot pie. We when we started, we used to have 15, 16-year-old apprentices, but we can't have somebody under 18 running a power tool legally. Now, you can put that 16-year-old behind 3,000 pounds of steel so that they hurtle at 70 miles an hour down the interstate. That's perfectly safe. But a cordless drill in the hand of a 16-year-old? No, that can't work. You just live every day wondering, well, what infraction did I make today, or who do I have to ask permission for today? We really are just suffocated in this morass of regulatory oversight. And the bottom line is you can't have successful small business with big government. Big government and small business don't go together. Big government and big business, that goes together really well. But and small government and small business, that goes together really well. But big government and small business don't go together well.
Well, so why don't we start here? Tell me what you've got going here, and actually where you started. I mean, because you're kind of become the face of this sort of small regenerative agriculture, healthy, don't use minimal kind of external product type operation, and a lot of people gain a lot of inspiration out of that.
I'd like to go back. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was a charter subscriber to Rodale's Organic Gardening and Farming magazine when it came out in 1945, just right there at the end of World War II. And so Dad was touched with this non-chemical, we'll call it a non-chemical approach. I've almost come to where I don't even want to use regenerative agriculture. I just say compost agriculture, but anyway, it's okay. Well, Dad wanted a farm. So after World War II, he was in the Navy in World War II, got discharged, went to Indiana University on the GI Bill, and gets on as a bilingual accountant with Texas Oil Company in their wildcat ventures off the coast of Venezuela. And so in 7 years, he was able to save enough. He got married and then was able to save enough to buy a 1,000-acre farm there in the highlands of Venezuela. And he said, what do these people need? And he thought, well, what they really need is dairy and chicken. They had bananas and pineapples and stuff like that, but animal protein was really, really lacking. And so since chicken is a lot quicker turnaround than dairy, well, let's start with chicken. So we started raising chickens, and all the indigenous chickens there at that time, this is 1956, 57. All the indigenous chickens were had subtherapeutic pneumonia. They had snot, nasal drip. And you know how those Latin American markets are. The farmers come into the village square to their vending spot, and then the middlemen, they don't, at that time they didn't have Walmart and Costco. So how did the city senora, mom, get evening dinner? Well, she bought it from vendors who would buy from the farmers, and one would have the bananas, and so she would have this stream of people, the banana man, the papaya man, the pineapple man, the lentils man, the beans, whatever.
Right.
And sure enough, there was enough understanding there that a dry-beaked chicken commanded a high price because they were the healthiest. And so chickens were priced based on health, on
lack of snot.
Lack of snot. That's exactly right. Lack of snot. All right. So So Dad takes our chickens down, and within 3 or 4 months, our chickens were completely dry beak, no respiratory issues whatsoever. And very quickly, he captured literally the entire local market. And of course, all the other farmers, instead of asking him, how do you do this? They accused us of witchcraft, voodoo, all sorts of things. And so there was a lot of animosity there. And so then in 1959, when there was a junta and a revolution, what those kind of things do is create license for scores to be settled that wouldn't be settled otherwise. And so essentially, machine guns came in the back door. We fled the front door. We stayed for about 8 months as Dad met with every single, federal minister to try to get protection. Nothing, can't help you. And so Easter Sunday, 1961, we arrived back to the U.S. in Philadelphia. Dad was 39 and had lost everything. And he still wanted to go back, which is why we ended up here in Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, and not out in Indiana and Ohio where their families were. He wanted to be within 3 hours drive of D.C. so that if things settled there and we could get back, within hours we could be at the Venezuelan embassy, get paper stamped, and back to the Venezuela. That never happened. So we looked at farms from roughly Lancaster, PA, down into the valley here, as far south as like Raleigh, North Carolina, all right, a big arc, and settled here on the most worn out, gullied rock pile, cheap, because it was so worn out, and settled here in 1961. So then Dad says, well, okay, how do I make a living on this farm? So we had all these advisors come in, public, private, different ones. Everybody's advice was, put on chemical fertilizer, plow, plant corn, borrow money, build silos, graze the woodlot,
The usual, basically.
Absolutely, the usual. And Dad knew that this is not the right way. So he was an accountant, and so he took a job with a local accounting firm. Mom took a job at the local high school, and that paid the mortgage, and we began what I call the decade of experimentation. And we experimented with compost, with portable systems. Dad invented, the older I get, the smarter Dad was.
Took them 10
And
years.
so he invented a
Perfect
portable
this.
electric fencing system. We started reading about moving animals, carbon.
Okay, now say it. I didn't hear it.
I said it took them 10 years to perfect this system that he's talking about. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Delayed gratification as opposed to instant gratification.
That's right. But look at this. This is amazing. This is a great story.
And we experimented with compost, with portable systems. Dad invented, the older I get, the smarter Dad was. And so he invented a portable electric fencing system. We started reading about moving animals, carbon, decomposition in the soil. How do you build soil? And also as an economist, he understood that as a small farmer, we could never compete at the low margin commodity level because we couldn't produce enough commodities. We had to become the middleman, the processor, the marketer, the distributor, in addition to the producer, the middleman that makes all the money. We needed to wear those hats so that we could get the full retail dollar, because we couldn't turn enough pounds or widgets or bushels or whatever to compete at a low margin volume
Large scale.
Yeah. And so we began, direct marketing throughout high school. I got my first chickens at 10 from Sears and Roebuck, and started selling to neighbors and people at church and a couple of restaurants and schools. By the time I was through high school, I had 300 laying hens and had a big garden and was selling produce and different things. And
so this was like, this entrepreneurship was just pushed from the beginning.
Well, right, absolutely, right from the beginning. And the neatest part of let me go ring the bell. I'll be right back, and we'll pick that up. The neatest part of the story.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let me go ring the bell. There we go. Class is in session.
You got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. That's right. That's right. Okay.
So entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
the neatest part of the story.
All right. So the neatest part of the story was, so in Stanton here, 10 miles away, there was a Depression era leftover, what was called a curb market. It was started during the Depression in the 1930s because farmers had money, had food, but no cash. People in town needed food and they had some cash. And so it was started, and goodness, through the 40s, this was like it was like a local Walmart. I mean, there was everything from cake to honey to custard to smoked ham to chicken, eggs, pot pie, everything. And it was all local. And a lot of people made, my wife's grandmother, on a Majestic wood stove in the 30s, would basically not sleep on Friday nights to make, I think it was at least 30, maybe 40 pies to take down to curb market, and literally kept them afloat. You know, it was cash flow through the, and of course, after the 50s, after the war and everything, and you know, TV dinners and things through the 50s and 60s, it waned down to where when I came in 71, 72, I'm a 14-year-old, it was down to 2 elderly matriarchs, and then I come. And so every single Saturday from 14 to 18, I was down there every Saturday selling our stuff. I've always said that we were probably 15 years ahead of our time. You know, this is early 70s.
Okay.
Organics hadn't really become a thing yet. And when we use the word organic, people would look at you like, organic, what's that? You know, like, that's a crazy, crazy thing. And so anyway, then when I went to college, nobody in the family was able to maintain the stand. And so I sold my chickens, we shut it all down. And then shortly after that, the 2 ladies stopped. So when I came back from college, it's no longer there. And I've often wondered, what would have happened if I hadn't gone to college and stayed and kept that open? What kind of battles would we have had? Because we were grandfathered. See, the thing was, that curb market started in the Depression, and there was a memorandum of understanding between the food I call the food police, and the Extension Service. So the Extension Service is the USDA agriculture education branch, 4-H, land grant universities, the extension agent in your county, okay, that helps farmers solve their problems. That's all Extension Service, all educational outreach from agriculture. Of course, the food safety is over here. Well, they had an understanding that if a vendor was involved in any kind of extension program, the food safety, the food police would look the other way regarding food issues because, well, they're getting the best of USDA education. He must be a pretty good guy. He's not a maverick. He's not a weirdo. So if you were in the Cattlemen's Association, 4-H, women's homemakers clubs, all those kinds of things, they looked the other way. So we were able to sell the only thing we couldn't sell was raw milk, but we could sell butter, yogurt, cottage cheese, home processed beef, home processed pork. I could cook chicken.
You saw what it could be.
Yes.
You lived it.
Yes.
You were like, we got to do this.
Yeah, we did. And you know what's amazing?
Yeah.
Our prices, Jan, were exactly the same as Kroger, as a supermarket. We weren't jacking them up because it's organic. No, because we were able to wear all those hats and do it here at home. We didn't have to put our animals on a trailer and take them up the interstate to get them slaughtered. Guess what? We were able to compete at price with the store because it was so efficient being done here. And this is one reason why I'm such a, in my lifetime, I have watched this erosion of farmer access to retail dollars Meanwhile, we're seeing farmers go out of business hand over fist. And the average farmer is now 60 years old. So in the next 15 years, half of all America's agriculture equity is going to change hands. The land, equipment, machinery, buildings. The question is it all going to go to Vanguard, BlackRock, Bill Gates, the Chinese? I mean, who's going to do this? And meanwhile, America has gone to a convenience food addiction. You know, we didn't take Michelle Obama's garden and know your farmer, know your food. We didn't take that to heart as a nation. Instead, we got Lunchables and Hot Pockets and squeezable Velveeta cheese, which then the industrial food complex started putting in MSG, red dye 29, and became, you know, the proverbial RFK Jr.'s, you know, ultra processed food with ingredients that you can't make in your kitchen. Well, you can make a chicken pot pie without MSG. It doesn't need MSG. You can make, you know, pickled beets without red dye 29. You can do all of this stuff, convenience food, without any of these questionable additives.
And you can do it economically, and that's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Except that this red tape comes in and knocks
exactly.
out, yeah.
And suddenly these regulatory practices, requirements, make it so prohibitively capital expensive to comply with the infrastructure, the paperwork, the licenses, the HACCP plans, to be able to sell legally, that the small organization can't get a seat at the table because you can't justify spending $500,000 to make a 5-gallon bucket full of charcuterie. It just doesn't work. If you're making tractor trailer loads of charcuterie, a $500,000 facility makes sense. You know, and the pushback from the other side is, well, look, you know, if Tyson has to comply with this, or, you know, Little Debbie's or whatever, then, you know, we need a level playing field. We need a level playing field. But Jan, we're not playing the same game. You know, in that kind of thinking, we could have a new mandate in the country. All right, we love football, but you can only play it on an NFL football field. There's no place else you got to have a certified referee and a certified field to play it on. These Sunday afternoon pickup games in the backyard where the goalposts or the you know the clothesline and the lilac bush on one end and the 5-gallon bucket and the you know shovel stuck in the ground on the other. No, we can't do that. You know, it's going to be regulation. But the fact is, the Sunday afternoon pickup game, we're not playing the same game. We're not in the same deal.
And there's another element here, and this is something that it just kind of has been my own life experience watching things, right? And it's that, you know, when you're small, you're accountable locally. I mean, at least that's the way it's been traditionally. You know, now you can do these virtual businesses and so forth. But when you're big and you're going all over the place, suddenly you're kind of shielded from that local accountability, maybe even with a little bit of legal help in our unbelievably legalistic system. So it really isn't the same game, because that accountability is the critical aspect. If you sold one bad pie or one bad chicken or whatever it was while you were with those two women, people aren't coming back.
That's right.
So you're accountable to them. You're accountable to your community.
That's right.
Right.
Because people know exactly, they're looking you in the eye. I mean, you go to Walmart and get something bad, who do you tell?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you can't tell anybody. But here, they know exactly who produced it, who made it, the kitchen it came out of, and it's a direct line. The pushback on it is also, well, food safety. Well, if we allowed people to have unfettered, unregulated access to their neighbors, people would get, you know, dirty farmers and bad food and all this stuff. Well, the fact is, our hospitals right now are full of people that have been eating government-approved food.
Who are sick because of that food.
Yes, absolutely, who are sick because of that food.
Yeah.
So to say that if we let people actually, you know, transact food business with their neighbor farmers, we'd be sicker than we are now with a, you know, with a agri-industrial complex controlled system is simply you're living with your head in the sand. It doesn't.
It really
work.
comes down to, that there have to be systems of accountability, the right incentives set up, right? And that, right now, it just, as you're talking about this, it's kind of backwards. Right.
Sure.
Of course, there's all these regulations and these rules, but the thing is, when you're at scale and you have the right people and you have an army of lawyers, you can actually, the whole purpose of that is to skirt the system, right?
Well, yeah.
If you're small, you can never skirt the system, right?
And including the entire veil or protection that a USDA stamp approved does. Whenever there's a E. coli, Campylobacter, whatever, some outbreak, the CEO of the company steps to the in the press conference, steps to the microphone. First thing he says is, "We comply with all USDA licensing," da 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 da. And the industry has been hiding under the skirts of that USDA stamp forever. A farmer like me, we can't hide under that. There's no skirts to hide under. We're vulnerable right to you as a customer. And there's nothing in between. There's no Philadelphia attorney on retainer. There's no lobbyist in DC. There's no protection. And so we're out there placing ourselves vulnerable and saying, we will serve you. And if we as two voluntary consenting adults want to exercise freedom of choice, we should be able to do it without the government's permission. That's where I am. And if we did that, if we had that freedom again, we would see an explosion of entrepreneurial small farm activity providing safer, more stable, more secure food into our communities. And we would chip away pretty dramatically, I think, at the oligarchy that Bernie Sanders and AOC keep talking about. Their solution is always a bigger government agency than the oligarchy. Well, we've tried that for 100 years, and look where it's gotten us. Ultimate centralization, consolidation, and control.
And the regulators kind of working with the regulated in ways that really isn't appropriate. That's in almost every industry.
The revolving
right?
door. It's what RFK Jr. calls agency capture. We thought they look over the fence and provide accountability. What they did, they climbed over the fence, got wined and dined, and started playing pool with the industry. That's what actually happened. And so what's happened now, what's really neat, that creates a moment of opportunity like we haven't had in a long time, I think, in this discussion, is we now have an internet accountability system, what I call Uberization. So, think about it. In the Middle Ages, or long before industrialization, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, lived in a village. They lived over their stores. They went to the same church. Their kids went to school together. Everybody knew who the scofflaw was. That guy there, I don't know. That's a pretty dirty place down there. This guy over here, clean ship. All right. And so it became basically self-vetting within the knowledge, the context that platform offered. Well, with industrialization, the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker didn't exist anymore, and instead they became massive conglomerates behind a security fence with security cameras and a guard tower, and nobody could go and visit and see, what are they doing over there? What are they doing over there? So I understand why people's fears, I disagree with it, but I understand why people's fears about their ignorance of what's going on behind the fence stimulated an industrial food police program. I understand it. Today, now, we have the capacity to bring the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker, bring that village voice down to a global scale with the democratization of information through the internet. If 50 years ago somebody had said, you're going to go to Calcutta and visit, some museum, and you're going to jump in a car that's not designated a taxi with a driver that doesn't have any special training, and you're going to trust him to take you there, you'd say, what? No, I want a taxi. I want a driver that's been vetted, right? But the internet gave us real-time vetting. If we're a bad passenger, the driver says, don't pick up that dude. And if he's a bad driver, the passengers, right, don't go to that driver. And the internet re-embedded the village self-vetting into a system. Airbnb, same thing. Over 10 years, Airbnb doubled it. If you take all the rooms worldwide, Sheraton, Hilton, and Marriott, all their rooms worldwide, Airbnb added that many rooms in 10 years without driving a nail. No government agency, no oversight, no nothing. That is the power of the democratized global voice to self-vet. And so here we are at this stage of the game. Food and farming were the last sectors of the economy to join industrialization. The first one was transportation, the railroads and all that. Second one was communication, telegraph, telephone. And so farming was way down that list. So since farming was the last sector of the economy to join industrialization, it'll be the last one to exit. And so what we have right now, we have an industrial oversight, an industrial model for policing, managing, educating, controlling a system that is desperate to Uberize. We're ready to Uberize, but you have these industrial, regulations and guardrails to keep you from Uberizing. Which is why, my thing is we need a food emancipation proclamation, and so I'm not an abolitionist. I disagree with some of my friends in this that we want to outlaw Monsanto, we want to outlaw glyphosate, outlaw ractopamine in pork. I don't like that stuff either. But when you look for solutions in a society, in a culture that's got a problem, asking for a regulatory solution is the worst option possible.
Yeah, you want a market solution. That's what you're asking
exactly.
for.
Yeah. You want a liberty solution. Can we solve this with freedom? So I'm not interested in being an abolitionist necessarily. What I do want is a viable underground railroad, so that those of us who want to escape the shackles of the regulatory system and take ownership of our food choices can do so. And if we did, the price of local food would drop by 30 or 40%. So suddenly now really good food is available to non-wealthy people. Food deserts would go away because empty lots could be turned into food things, and people could make food in their kitchens and offer it there in the community. And there would be an on-ramp for thousands and thousands of young farmers with small acreages to be able to make a full-time living on their farm.
And the thing that strikes me about all this, like not even talking about the Uberization, there isn't really a danger to this large-scale farming system through this, is there? Like, it doesn't feel. It feels to me like something that can work side by side, and if anything, it'll help them because it will, kind of challenge them to become better in ways that maybe they're not being challenged right now.
But they don't want to be challenged to be better. They don't want to be. So they see it. I'm with you.
Like my point is, you don't need to create regulations to stop the big farms from doing what they're doing. You don't need to do anything. Let them do their thing. Just let these people do their thing.
Yeah, and I believe that if we allowed this, thousands of consumers. I mean, I buy stuff too. We don't grow everything that we eat. Food buyers would leave the industrial system en masse if alternatives were cheaper, more available, and more abundant.
Well, now you're telling me why they should be scared.
And they should be, which is why they don't want this to happen.
Right.
If they admit, a lot of people are going to buy from these guys, then you have to admit there is a yearning in the marketplace for this that you're stopping.
Yeah. Right.
And so, they tend to want to eliminate.
I think they want it simple. They've got a system. They've got it going. They don't want trouble. It's got a good steady stream of cash.
Yeah.
And this is disruptive, as
Yes.
Uber obviously was. It
Absolutely.
caused all sorts of.
Look at the
situations.
chauffeur industry and how they were.
Well, and the medallions in New York City and on all of this, right?
Right.
So it's disruptive, but at the same time, I think it would be very positive, right, for everybody.
Oh,
Right.
Well, it would be positive. So if you look at, let's look at freedom or liberty, freedom and liberty. All right. If you really had a liberty-oriented, a liberty-centric system, who wins and who loses? All right. Who wins? Well, the average person wins. Farmers who want to participate win. Who loses? Well, maybe people aren't as sick anymore, so hospitals lose. People are going to choose chicken that's not Tyson's, so Tyson loses. So it's the entrenched oligarchy, frankly, that loses in a free market system. The ones that win are the ones that offer opportunity and choice, to the average person.
And I mean, I would argue that these we call the oligarchs, let's just say the large scale operations that are, sort of deep in the system and providing the food to America as we speak. I mean, it would help them to get better. And I think that's positive.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely. Oh, I do too. I mean, philosophically, absolutely. If they were suddenly pressured by 100,000 little competitors, you'd better believe we would see changes very fast.
And this is really the best part of capitalism, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? This is where it works, because people will vote with their feet.
Yes.
And if you can provide something people will want too. Like it's not that, it seems simple and wonderful, actually, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. It does.
So on your farm, just lay out for me, like, where have been the biggest roadblocks that you faced? You mentioned the sawmill problem, and you can't make a chair and stuff like that. But let just, personally, but some of you've obviously overcome quite a number of these, because here we are, right? And part of it is these tours, which we're taking part in. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But so where would the biggest roadblocks be? And maybe give me one example of a roadblock and one example of the innovative solution that you managed to enact.
Okay, so it's not always about food. For example, we started 30 years ago, almost. We had young people that were wanting to come and learn. I want to come and learn. I can't learn this in school anywhere. I need to come. So 30 years ago, we began a formal apprentice program. Young people come for a year. Well, we needed a.
This isn't woofing, right?
No. This is not woofing.
This is a proper apprenticeship.
Oh, this is a proper apprenticeship.
Okay.
Very formal, and a year minimum. Got to come for a year, not 6 months, not 8 months, a year. And but the problem is we couldn't build a house. Agriculture zone, you can't build. A family member can build a house, but you can't have worker housing. You can't have student housing. You can't, in fact, you can't have a school in an agriculture zone. It's illegal for me to write my books from my desk at the house, because that is a publishing business is prohibited in an agriculture zone. Now, I do it anyway, and nobody's complaining about it. But this is how tight the stipulations read. It's absurd. So anyway, we've got to build an apprentice cottage. They've got to live here, but we can't build a legal structure. What do we do? So I went down to the scrap metal yard and got a couple big I-beams, welded them together, and we put a structure on these two I-beams on four pillars, and called it a farm machine, because it doesn't have It's just bolted down with bolts. And so it doesn't actually have a foundation. All right. We could actually push a hay wagon under there, jack it up, put a couple blocks and drop it down and move it. And so we called it a farm machine. And it's not real estate. It's a farm machine. And so, those are things. So then when the program grew and grew, we started the stewardship program, more like, 20 years ago. Well, these guys want to live here. We need more housing. So I actually called our elected supervisor and the economic development guy in our county. I had the two of them out here. I said, look, we need apprentice and stewardship housing. I don't want to do something that's permitted because if I have to go through a special use permit, the community's going to go crazy because they're thinking we're building a university and there's going to be cars and So I said, I need to know what we can build without a permit. I said, well, give us 30 days. All right. Well, at day 28, they called and said, we've got answers. Good. So they came down and they sat down and I said, all right, here's what you can build without a permit in Augusta County. You can build a farm building. So, a barn, shed, whatever. You can build a tree house. So, Swiss Family Robinson, if you got a big enough tree, tree house. If it floats, a houseboat. So one of the reasons to have a pond is to have water so you can, and we came this close to putting floating houses on the ponds. If it floats. Number 4, if it has a chassis, so like an RV, okay? And number 5 is a hunt camp. A hunt camp. So we have the polyface hunt camp. Now, interesting, the law doesn't say what you have to hunt. So we have the polyface hunt camp. We're hunting for the truth.
Genius.
Yeah. So these are things. Now we haven't figured out how to get around to everything, but there are workarounds for numerous things, and I always challenge my friends. Say, look, if those of us on the liberty side can't figure out how to circumvent, a bureaucrat, well, shame on us. There's got to be a way to go around it. Haven't figured them all out yet, but those are some things.
There's a certain sort of comedy to all of it, isn't there?
Oh yes. Yeah. Our biggest showdown was we were dressing these chickens, and early on, I'm in my 20s. We're starting this pastured poultry thing. We're selling to local people. They're coming out here to the farm to get their chickens. They walk right in where we process them in the morning. We clean up. They come and they walk right into where we process them. It can't be dirty. These are people buying their food right here. And the state came in and said that's illegal. And it never occurred to me that it would be. That's how naive I was. What do you mean? I'm a voluntary farmer. They're a voluntary buyer. We're neighbors. What do you mean we can't butcher a chicken here and sell it to them? And they said, well, the air is unsanitary. The air is so you can't. And I figure they never go on a picnic. Really.
Yeah.
And they said if one fly enters your processing area, then it's an adulterated chicken and inedible. Here was the way they were trying to get me. Your windows have to be covered with fly impregnable mesh. Their interpretation was that assumed you had a wall. I said, no, it doesn't say I have to have a wall. It says if I have to have a wall and there's windows, they have to be screened. This became the crux of the showdown. And they're saying this is all illegal. We're going to shut you down because you have to have a wall. I said, it doesn't say I have to have a wall. It just says if there is a wall and it's got windows in it. So we went around and around and around. We finally went through the federal inspection. We got our senator, our delegate involved, and our attorney and different things. Anyway, 3 months later, we won. We won that. But it was a knockdown, drag out. It was it was our livelihood. They were going to eliminate our farm and eliminate all of our customers from getting vaccine antibiotic-free chicken, which at that time was very unusual. It's a little more usual now. There's more people have come to it. But at that time, it was extremely unusual to be able to find an antibiotic-free, vaccine-free chicken. And so we won that. But that's the kind of stuff they do. They came in and they said, so well, you have to have changing lockers for your employees. I said, we don't have any employees. So you have to have 9 changing lockers. I said, our house is 30 feet from where we're doing the chicken. We do the chickens in the backyard, you know? So we have to have bathrooms. I said, bathrooms? Why? I said, I've got 2 in our house, 2 in Mom's house. They're 40 and 50 feet away. And if I want to go number 1, I just step behind the tractor. You know, what are we going to do about that? But, you know, when we had the showdown, our minority leader in the House of Delegates in Virginia came legislative aide for our elected guy, and she's standing there. She's sitting there with these guys, and she's got her little half moon glasses, you know, and she looks up at them in our living room, and she looks up at them and she says, "Gentlemen, is it possible that somebody in Richmond created these rules who could not have conceived of a place like Polyface?" And of course, they had to say yes. They could. And interestingly, at that time, we had just had a microbiology lab run a test on our swab test on our chicken. They'd gone to the store and bought chicken. They'd come here and got chicken, sent them to a lab to test for bacteria.
Yes.
And our cultures averaged 133 colony forming units of bacteria per milliliter to the second permutation. I already don't know what I'm just saying, but that's the way they write it. 133. The store-bought birds that had 40 chlorine baths, ours had no antimicrobials. The store-bought birds averaged 3,600. 3,600 versus 133. And I said, so if it's clean, who cares if it's outside, inside, in the kitchen? You know, if it's clean, it's clean. Well, that's not all we're concerned about. I said, well, what else you can? That's when they started with the bathrooms and changing tables, all this, you know. And so this was the progression of the thing. But, you know, the average farmer, fortunately, I had 5 years of high school debate, 4 years of college intercollegiate debate under my shoulders.
And then handy.
Yes. And so I wasn't a milk toast, okay?
Yeah.
But most farmers are not gifted with that level of whatever debate, you know, argumentative and
rhetoric,
ability, and they just roll over. And so yeah, this is where we are. We've had numerous numerous things come up over the years, and that's why I wrote the book Everything I Want to Do Is Illegal, because I wanted to document what some of those are. When people say, well, why isn't your stuff more available, or why aren't there more farmers that have your kind of food, or, you know, all those kind of questions? It's not that there aren't.
It's a battle.
It's a battle. It's not that there aren't people who want to buy it. It's not that there aren't farmers willing to produce it. You have this between the two, consenting adults want to engage in a food transaction. You have this bureaucracy that becomes a bit of a nightmare.
You know, I keep thinking about how all of this really started from a grandfather's passion. For organic. Right? Or non-chemical, or however it's called, you know. That's there's something beautiful about that.
There is.
It sort of got infused into a young debater.
And if there are young people listening to this, or young parents with kids, you know, I like to tell the story that was pivotal in my early childhood. So, you know, my mom was a health and phys ed teacher before Title IX. Girls phys ed, very, very athletic, very athletic. My older brother, very athletic, played football, gymnastics, you know, and here I come, I'm this pudgy late bloomer, you know, and, but yeah, I've got, you know, mom that's this, you know, health and phys ed, older brother that's this, you know, standout. So I hit 7th grade. I'm going to go out for the baseball team at school. So I got to the baseball team, and I don't make it. Okay. And that year there was a forensics meet public speaking, poetry reading, prose, and I entered that and won it. And the next year, then I go on up to high school. I'm in 8th grade. I'll go out for the basketball team. They have an 8th grade basketball team. We'll go out to the basketball. So I go out for it. And I still remember today looking at that list and my name's not there. And at that moment, I made it, okay, hang it. I'm good at talking, writing, communicating. I'm going to put all my energy in that. And so I joined the debate team. I was in drama, theater, and so I tell children that sometimes are struggling with something, trying to meet somebody else's expectations or things that they feel like they should do. Take those early failures happily, embrace them, because they help you know what you're good at and what you're not good at. The entire business program called Strengths Finders, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Their whole premise is, you hear people say, you need to work on you're weak there, you need to work on that. No, actually their whole model is, forget your weakness, get a partner, hire somebody, that does your weakness, and instead leverage your strength. Leverage your strength. You'll go farther leveraging your strength than trying to overcome your weakness. And I just think I just think that's profound. And I know in my own life, it was pivotal in me moving. So I didn't play sports in high school. I was on stage. I was on, and I honed that communication capacity. And the truth is, today, a lot of our success is my ability to tell stories, to communicate. Because communicators always lead their vocation. And so when moms come up to me with little, 8 and 9, 10-year-old Joey, in tow, say, my little, Janie or Joey says they want to be a farmer, what should I do? I said, get them involved in a local theater troupe. Learn to tell stories, be a storyteller, and people will come to hear you.
No, that's it. I mean, absolutely amazing advice, actually. And I think this strength leveraging is something, I'm kind of learning about this later in life.
Yeah, well, most of us, we want to be good at everything. We don't want to say, I'm just not good at that. But that is a very liberating thing to say, I'm just not good at that. And I mean, recently I've been asked to run for office or, be in some sort of political thing. And I'm not good at committee stuff. I'm an entrepreneur, go get it, make the sawdust chips fly and ask if we should have cut the tree later, let's get her done. And I don't function in committees and focus groups and sitting around and let's spend the day yakking. I go nuts. Okay. And so, so I've told these, look, if I've got time to do that, then I'd rather write another book or, do a podcast or something. And so being able to be honest with yourself and say, I'm not good at this, I don't like this, I think is a very, very freeing thing to be able to put all your attention on, where you thrive, where you flourish.
Well, so something you're very excited about, you mentioned earlier, I want to kind of get out the details of this because it's important, is this Emancipation Proclamation. So explain that to me. What does that mean? And again, I think it's not supposed to be something that's terribly threatening, right?
No.
Right? It's supposed to be something that's terribly helpful. Right?
Yes. Yeah, just like Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was, in 1863. And I know I'm using colorful language, but I'm doing it on purpose because most people don't realize how enslaved our food system is. They say, well, I go to Walmart and look at all the labels, look at all the pretty cartons and things. What do you mean there's no choice? Well, if you ever notice the press release of any kind of food recall, it'll give the brands, it'll list the brands. Well, there's like 25 brands of ground beef or whatever. Well, it all came out of the same chute, you know. I mean, they slap a different label on it, but it all came out of the same chute, the same funnel. And so people don't realize how little choice we have. And so the Food Emancipation Proclamation grew out of how can we create benefits on lots of different levels using freedom and no government agency to accomplish it. So when you think of benefits of a Food Emancipation Proclamation, which basically says you and I can engage in a food transaction without the government's permission. That's not the way it would be written, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
In other words, I'm not saying I want the freedom to sell to Walmart or export to Vietnam. Okay, let that system go. You know, and there are people. I mean, I've had on my own blog, I've had people, I'd be scared to death to buy food from a farmer. I'm going to go to the grocery where the government has. That's fine. I'm not going to go and you know, be an activist and dump manure at McDonald's. Okay, it's fine for McDonald's to exist. But what I want is for those of us who want to take an underground railroad, let us do so without sending the hounds after us. And I would suggest that if the Underground Railroad had not had a fugitive slave law and hounds and everything else, that a whole lot of people would have taken it if it hadn't been so fearful. Because most, and I'm not trying to be any kind of racial here at all. I'm just speaking into how people make decisions. And I can assure you that sitting around those slaves' quarters, as when one guy or one woman or one couple or family said, "We're leaving," you can just see the others. What if you get lost? What if you starve? What if the dogs find you? What if you can't find work? What if, you know? I mean, there's all these what ifs. It's identical to, we've had those things in the past, like probably the closest parallel besides the slave situation is the early days of homeschooling in our culture. When Teresa and I decided to homeschool, this was in 1981, all right? This is before Homeschool Legal Defense Association. This is before homeschool laws. At that time, the state would send truancy officers to your house, take your children away and put them in foster care to protect them from negligent parenting. So we pulled the blinds, we didn't ask, we didn't tell, you know, you just hunker down in this bunker. And meanwhile, the city the editorials in the newspapers written by academics were, if we let homeschooling go, we won't be able to build psych wards fast enough to handle the socially, neglected children and all this, we're gonna have all these dumb kids, all this stuff. Now, how many colleges actually give scholarships for homeschooled kids because they tend to think for themselves? They're not peer dependent. They're,
highly socialized.
Yeah,
typically.
very. Yeah. Well, what they did, the industrial academic community equated being socialized with being sociable. Socialized means I want to do what everybody else does. Sociable means yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir, kind, open the door, Sociable, that's the graces we want our kids to have. We don't want them to be little socialists.
No, but socialized, I mean, just, able to function in the world
sociable
in a way that isn't, that you're not somehow, kind of, there isn't a massive barrier. You can be different. You can have some different ideas, but you know how to work in the world.
I guarantee you right now, TikTok and screen media is doing way more to make our children unsociable than homeschooling ever could have imagined. That's my sense.
I mean, I think there's a lot of research that would back up what you're saying.
I mean, we wanted our kids to be like us. Kind, gentle, respectful, okay? Do you learn that in school? No, you learn to be a bully, protect yourself, fight back. You know, I mean, I'm being broad brushed here, but you know, how many people send their little 5-year-old nice little child off to school and they come back saying words and spewing ideas that where'd that come from? And
Is that the reason you decided to take this kind of radical position at the time?
Yes, absolutely. Daniel was born, and we're looking, and we say, we were both we were both public schools, and we knew we didn't want that, but we didn't have enough money for private school, and correspondence school just hadn't grown to where it is today because of the computer and stuff. But back then, it just wasn't there. And so we were really in a quandary, and it was like a bolt of lightning. Daniel was six weeks old. It was our first out since he was born. Our first, we're going to go on a day trip. We went on this day trip to this conference, and we got in the car, turned on the radio, and you know how you turn on the radio, you get mid-sentence sometimes. I got in the car, I said, "Oh, it's 9 o'clock, Dobson's on, Focus on the Family." And I flipped on the radio, and it said, "Homeschool." I looked at Teresa, I remember it like yesterday. It was like a bolt of lightning. I looked at her, I said, "I've never heard of it, I don't know what it is, but that's what we're doing." Just like that. So we listened to the rest of the broadcast, and then wrote for the books, got all the books, read them all. It was a done deal. It was a done deal. So here's the thing. As the academic elite tried to demonize, criminalize the homeschool alternative choice in that day, we are in that same day in our food system today. We're in that same day in our food system.
Well, so there's hope. I mean, basically, this is right.
Absolutely, there's hope. We have never seen the Maha movement. We have never seen as dramatic an interest in authentic food as we've seen literally in the last 3 years. Everybody I know that's in our space is just having a banner year. People are leaving. They're leaving the industrial food system as fast as they can. And I mean, all my life, we have just, you got to sell, you got to market, you got to sell, you got to market, Oh, we got to build up of inventory over here. Oh man, what are we going to do with this? It's hit and sell by day, and suddenly here we're running a 14-day complete inventory turnaround. We're 40% under production. I mean, we got to beat them away. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Good problem to have, as people say. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. I mean, it has its own. You have people that are angry. Well, I thought I'd get pork chops from you, and I can't get under that. But yeah, I'll take that problem any day over having a stack of pork chops worth $5,000, going bad in the freezer. So yeah, it is a wonderful thing, and it shows me there is a growing yearning to opt out, the phrase I hear every day is disentangle. This is part of the disentanglement. I'm going to disentangle from the healthcare system. If I'm going to disentangle from the healthcare system, I've got to get healthy. If I'm going to get healthy, I got to quit eating chemicals. If I'm going to quit eating chemicals, I've got to eat, something that doesn't have that. And you march down the line, and I think that this is a natural permutation, kind of a grad school of homeschool.
If I may jump in, okay? Like, I'm just remembering something a detractor called it, which is the Maha rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yes. Well, or I would say the domino effect.
Okay.
You push over one domino and it moves you to this. So, 35 years ago, when we were starting to get a little bit of traction and media attention and stuff, 75% of the visitors here were liberal, greenie, earth muffin, tree hugger, and then the homeschool movement kicked in, and suddenly it turned 50-50, and now it's 75-25 the other direction. And the homestead movement, when I wrote a book, Homestead Tsunami, these homestead conventions are massive now, thousands and thousands of people at these things. In my view, it's a natural permutation. Okay, so we opt out of the the first thing to go is the education system. We're gonna opt out of education. We don't like what the schools are doing to our kids. We're gonna opt out of that. Well, you opt out of that, and what happens is when you disentangle from one aspect of a culture and find it soul satisfying, the next question is, well, what else have I been missing? And so I think homeschool was the tip of the iceberg. And as people moved into homeschool, next thing you know, they're starting to question vaccines or the entire vaccine regimen. And next thing you know, they're starting to drink raw milk. And then you see a flour mill on the kitchen counter where they're getting, bags of GMO-free barley, and then you see a sourdough mother starter on the windowsill, some mung bean sprouts over here, herb garden out back, and it's just a natural progression of disentangling from a system to where we feel completely deprived of personal agency. Here's what you're going to learn in school, and here's your your health regimen. Here's your school regimen. Here's your work regimen. Here's your and in my view, the system, what it does is it gradually erodes and destroys our ability to dream. Little children, they dream, and they go to school and they learn that the only thing worth learning is what the teacher says, and you're only supposed to be interested in it until the bell rings. Okay, this is John Taylor Gatto dumbing down America, and so they go through, and they're trying to, then they try to please their parents, they try to please their teacher, tries to please their coach, and then as they get older, then they get a job, they try to please their employer, and then they try to please their spouse. And by the time they're in their mid-20s, I'll say we are in our mid-20s, our life is so consumed in trying to meet the expectations and please the expectations of the other people in our life that we've lost the ability to dream. And so when I do like seminars to help people get into farming, I have a list of about 5 things, and one I start with, and one of them is, I give you permission to dream. I want you, don't worry about what anybody else thinks right now. And my mentor, Alan Nation, used to say, if you want to know what your real dream is, go back to 10 years old. 10 years old, you have become your personality, your interests, your, stuff, but you don't have any responsibility yet. You don't have to make a living. You don't have to do this. And so 10 years old is generally the purest form of you there is. And so if you're 25, 30, 40, 50, if you got to get into a room and get into a yoga position and whatever, and what was it like at 10? What did you dream about? What floated your boat? What did you wish for at 10? That's probably the truest part of you. And I got my first chickens when I was 10 years old. And I walked into that basement. This box came from Sears and Roebuck. I dumped those little chickens out, and those little fluffy balls they were in a box with a heat lamp over them, so they'd stay warm. And I've never gotten over it.
I think there must be a lot of people out there right now, especially, with this newfound enthusiasm through the Maha movement, through these changes being fostered through HHS. There must be a lot of young people looking to perhaps have that kind of experience and just kind of go down that road. And so, and your whole thing right now seems to be to make it simpler for people to actually go down this road, to actually have something at a small scale that they can be proud of, that they can, build an entrepreneurial business with. If you had one piece of advice, we have, the government is here, right? It's doing a thing. What is the simplest, best thing they could do at this point to help foster that?
Do one thing. Don't make a list of things that you would like to do. Don't make a great big, no. Just what's one thing that you could do, whether it's start a sourdough mother, sprout some mung beans, have a little hanging herb pot on your front porch, a beehive on the roof, you know, a chicken coop out back. For some people, it'd just be go visit a couple local farms, and what can you get locally? Maybe even go to farmers market. I mean, but there is something that you can do that invests in a better world, in a better culture, in earthworms, for crying out loud. You know, what can you do today that would be positive for earthworms, that would honor earthworms? I mean, that's about as simple as it gets. The kind of food, you know, fixing something from scratch, whatever, and then and just do that one thing, and that's the way life is. You know, you don't know a year from now, but you can make a decision for an hour from now. When you get there an hour from then, life is not mapped out to where we make a 10-year map. You know, life, the end of life is an accumulation of all the, what should I do next hour? What should I do next hour? What should I do next hour? And if you do all those correctly, at the end, it'll be right.
Is there a simple thing that, say, the USDA or some other government agency involved deeply in this, you know, in everything you're doing here, and your desire to foster this relationship, right? Is there something simple that they could do to help make that happen in your mind?
I really don't see anything the government can do that's helpful. You know, I've been, and you know, I have friends that just hate it when I say that, but all our life, we have just not found much help. In fact, we've had a lot of hurt from government agencies. So I just don't look to them. I just don't think that the government is capable of actually innovating in a sense. Government, when 51% of the people want this, then the government steps in. I mean, almost by definition, what the government does has to be wanted by 51% of the people. Well, that automatically puts it out of innovation, because innovation is out on the lunatic fringe. Innovation, by definition, is what most people don't want. That's where innovation happens. And so looking to the government for, you know, for an answer, for help, for a solution, it's just always behind. I mean, I'm thinking of, you know, for example, you know, when the government finally endorses a certain procedure of sustainability, of natural farming or whatever, what we find is it's always 10 years after we've been doing it for 10 years. Always. Because they have to double blind test it, you know, and so, you know, I've always told the extension agents, the educational branch of USDA, if you guys really want to help, quit doing your research and just become a forum, a platform to codify and put out there what interesting things people are doing. You don't have to say, we endorse this. You don't have to say this works. Just, well, Farmer X has tried this over here. Here's what he found. Farmer Y tried this over here, and here's what, you know, she found. And just codify it. That was actually done before the USDA existed. President Abraham Lincoln started the USDA. Before him, in the up through, you know, the 1800s, up through that time, Jefferson's day, James Madison's day, there were massive farmer organizations, and farmers would present papers, you know, hey, I've done this experiment for 5 years, and it was an honor to be asked to address, you know, 1,000 farmers at this convention of what you've done. That was where farmers got their cutting edge information.
So it's just basically you're saying, you know, if you want to do something, you know, foster the communication, foster the community,
right.
Foster the sharing of good
right.
ideas.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, Joel Salatin, it's such a pleasure to have had you on.
It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining Joel Salatin and me on this episode of American Thought Leaders. I'm your host, Jan Jekielek.
Wasn't that delicious?
That was a lot,
What'd you,
but it was delicious at the same time.
what'd you learn, Sven?
Oh boy. Well,
Was it a lot of new thought for you?
yes, it was. Because when I've looked at farming, um, and even in real life, there was, there was the herding of the animals, and it's basically factory farming and all that. And a few years ago, I even lived on a farmhouse back in Missouri. And even then, they had horses and they had grass, but at the same time, they had hay, they had grain, they had apples. They were stinky, flies around them. It was
Yeah.
interesting. So, yeah, I guess. So then just uh, grass is the way to go, not necessarily hay or grain.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then other than that, that's about all I got. So what's so important about you you know, like making sure that the animals are fed grass and not hay or grain or whatever else is out there? Like, what's so important?
What are you asking? Be specific. What's so important about
So
grass?
so so a lot of times, you have animals, and they're either fed hay or they're fed grain or a processed food, and then you have animals over here that don't eat hay or grain or processed food, and they only eat grass. So then I asked, so what's the difference between the two?
Animals that eat, some animals like chickens, they need grain. But cows, their natural diet is grass. That's what they prefer.
Hmm.
Birds eat grains and seeds. Cows and goats and sheep and horses, they eat grass. So if you force them to eat seeds like oatmeal and so forth, you're messing with them. They'll have a lot of health problems. And they have their whole biology, their whole digestive system is cows, sheep, and goats and stuff. They're designed to eat grass. Why do you want to screw around with that? So it turns out that the animals, these large animals that eat grass, they're healthier. You can see it in their coat, in their health, and the meat tastes better. The milk tastes better. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah.
If you feed them grains, you got to give them antibiotics because they're going to get unhealthy, and you got to give them vaccinations and blah, 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 And you got to grow the grasses, which turn to grain, and then you harvest the grain and give the grain to them. And then you cut the grass and make hay out of it for winter time, and then you give them that. Anyway, so thank God for Joel Salatin.
Yep.
There you go, boys and girls. Thought you might enjoy watching that interview with Joel Salatin with me. Exit stage right. Check back later. I have it in mind to read 1 Corinthians 15 again on our next visit. Maybe we'll do that. Because 1 Corinthians 15 is a really cool chapter in the Word of God. You know what I mean? Uh-oh.
Real quick before you leave, I just wanted to testify that whole 30-day thing, I got that advice from you almost 2 years ago, and it took a few tries on meat alone. You need to plan for it. Like, you need to figure out what meat you can afford and get your whole 30 days set up. But when you do that, you will, like I quickly found out, I know now when I eat bread, I'm in for a world of hurt in my joints. Definitely.
Mhm.
And when I eat sugar, this bacteria that I'm fighting, it goes crazy. I mean, insane. And so I just stick to meat, fat, root vegetables like yams, potatoes, carrots, stuff that grows in the ground for the microbes and minerals. Some fruit here and there, not a lot, and but mostly meat. And I eat once a day. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
Like, most of the time I eat one time a day. And I eat, I'll get a lot of meat. And preferably it's nice to eat like twice. But once you get in the rhythm of it, your body doesn't even affect your mind and saying you need food. You don't feel hungry.
Yeah.
So,
Energy.
so Kate, if I were to ask you, like, what type of meat are
I
we aiming
buy
for here?
with the most fat I can find, and grass fed. I try, and when I can afford it, I try to get the cleanest meat. And I'm about ready to find a butcher. One of these, we live in California, so the Mexican community here is awesome. They have a lot of good butcher shops, and I want to find a butcher that'll give me, you could buy $200 or $300 worth of your meat, those strange cuts. You can get a deal, and then have a freezer, and man, you could eat really well. Freezing, having your stuff ready to go. But yeah, it has helped me a lot. Your health, your body weight, your fat to body. It's all good. It's good stuff. Your sleep is critical too.
Yeah, Kate, I thought you would enjoy hearing Joel Salatin.
I think that was one of the most amazing stories I've heard in 55 years on this planet. That whole long 20 years in the making, from that guy's passion on truth, what he knew to be truthful, even into the homeschooling. And out of everything in my life, I look back and you start counting your losses, those that know what I've gone through. Still, out of those 28 years, I have 6 children that were homeschooled, and I know they can critically think, and that will serve them well, even though we're all going through this stupid stuff right now, this drama fest. Later on, they've been equipped, to critically think, and they have the best chance to snap out of all these things, everything they know about health and food. I got to give them that. And the one boy that has latched onto it, he's got a boy now, and I can see the positive effects of that truth in them. It's good stuff. Anyways, great show. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you, boys and girls. Give me a thumbs up, leave comments, and share this episode with somebody. Grace to you, and bye for now.